Greetings football fans, my name is Liam Thorpe.
And I'm Mark Cockcroft.
Now you are Mark Cockcroft and you're not Michael Mambo, my usual Team Talk guest.
That's right.
Where is he?
Michael Mambo is busy studying. He's in the final part of his studies. Education is key. We accept his apologies and I'll fill in for him today and hopefully do a thorough job.
Well, pleased to have you here, Mark.
Thank you.
First off, let's have a quick look at the Premier League results this weekend.
Okay, so there you have the action from the weekend's football. Liam, I'm often stood in the office watching you grill Michael Mambo twice a week. So today, it's going to be my turn to ask you some questions.
Good.
We're going to start with the relegation battle. They were the key games that were played this weekend. And we're going to start with QPR's vital win at home to Sunderland, 3-1. What did you make of it? It
was the biggest result of the weekend in many ways. As a lot of people might know, QPR were at the root of the table for so long. Obviously, they got Harry Redknapp in. He has got a name for pulling off the unbelievable, and it looks like he could do it. Of course, they won their last game, and this, if they were to win this, it was their first back-to-back victories since they returned to top-flight football. And the thing is, they were good value for it. It wasn't a smash and grab job. They went behind, didn't really deserve to. They then pulled it back, scored two absolutely stunning goals to win the game, and looked very comfortable. So whereas when they had Mark Hughes as manager, it looked like a lot of individual players trying to come together. Harry's just got this phenomenal knack of making a team work, and I would say they've got every chance of staying up now.
How important were the signings that he made in January to them staying up if they do stay up?
Yeah, definitely. He was sort of lambasted quite a bit for just spending lots of money, and they bought Chris Samba from Anzhi in Russia for a lot of money and a lot of wages. But actually, it was two of his lesser-known signings that scored the important goals at the weekend. Andros Townsend, not a very well-known player from Spurs. Harry obviously used to manage at Spurs, recognised him. Jermaine Genius, who many people will have thought is long past it, both scored the goals. But also, the first goal, the equalising goal, came from Loic Remy, who, again, was a big money signing and someone you might have thought, have they got this money to spend? If they get relegated, they're going to be awash with debt. But Harry doesn't think like that. He thinks these players will keep us in this division, and they may well do.
Well, we went onto the Facebook page, how we do speak to you guys every day, and we said who's going to get relegated. A couple of the comments that came through to us. Duncan Wempwa said QPR, Reading and Southampton. And we've got somebody else called Ndine Mukwevo who says QPR also going to go down. So you're saying that QPR are likely to stay up. In your opinion, we've got two people there who say QPR are going to go down. When Harry took over, a lot of people said it was
too much.
Sort of no way he was going to be able to do it. What do you honestly think? If you had to pick three teams now, who would you say was going to go down?
Well, I just think you write off Harry Redknapp at your peril. And I just think they've got the momentum now. 2 wins. I've looked at their run-in. They've not got too many of the big teams. Quite a lot of arguably winnable games. A team like Aston Villa, who we'll talk about later, who had a great result, they've got some really tricky games. And with some of the defending they've displayed, I'm afraid I can see them going down. Reading, for me, are already down. I think they're in free fall at the moment. And then it's really a question of, can Wigan get it together? I like Roberto Martinez. They play lovely stuff, but they don't win enough games. And then possibly Southampton as well. I mean, the thing is, you could even get Sunderland dragged into the mix, who are currently up in 14th. But if I had to plump for 3 at the moment, maybe because of allegiances and people who are like, I would say Reading, Southampton and Villa to go.
Okay. Well, Southampton drew 0-0 with Norwich, another team that are down there. A win for either of them probably would have given them a bit of a boost. But
yes, and to be honest, Southampton were very unlucky, but then also very lucky to not lose that game, because there was a horrendous decision really of a penalty given to Norwich in the last minute, which just for me was not a penalty at all. But the Southampton goalkeeper Artur Boric saved it brilliantly, and you never know how important that point might be for them.
Okay. Well, the other sort of the biggest win other than QPR's against Sunderland was Villa, who looked dead and buried early on in the season. A 2-1 win away at fellow strugglers Reading, who you say are done and dusted.
Yep.
How important is that for Villa?
Well, I mean, I said QPR's is the biggest result, but in many ways Villa's is just as big, because they always say it's important to beat the people around you. So like a 6-pointer, and again, Villa went behind to a calamitous own goal and showed real spirit to get back in this. And Gabby Agbonlahor, who just about proving that he's still got quality, won it for them. So yeah, massive result. But as I say, it's about the running, who they've got coming up. They've got big games against the likes of United, and I think they might just miss out.
Okay. We're going to discuss the FA Cup matches, but we'll talk about one more Premier League game, which was probably the game of the weekend for any of you that saw it. Liverpool beat Tottenham 3-2. Humongous result for Brendan Rodgers' side, wasn't it?
Brilliant result, and a lot of people were billing this game as Bale versus Suarez, and of course both players were hugely influential. Gareth Bale not scoring, which seems ridiculous at the moment, but he did provide both the assists for both Jan Vertonghen goals, and Luis Suarez. I mean, what can you say about him? He's not everyone's cup of tea, but he is a fantastic footballer, and I think Steven Gerrard said afterwards he is a hot favourite for Player of the Year, and I think that's fair. But Spurs were 2-1 up, and I read something in the paper today, something I very much agreed with, which is Spurs have almost everything to be a team that could challenge for the title, except that their biggest problem is themselves. And just those in that game, 2-1 up at Anfield, a United or a Chelsea might have closed that out. Spurs, they only seem to know how to play one way, and unfortunately that can invite late goals. So huge result for Liverpool. And despite what Brendan Rodgers says, they can start to dream of Champions League football.
Champions League football. I mean, he said he's not talking about it. There's 9 games left now for Liverpool. Interestingly, they moved above Everton in the league. They're now 6th. Goal difference is the only thing that's putting them above Everton, and Everton do have a game in hand. A friend of mine is a big Liverpool fan. He posted on his Facebook page yesterday a snapshot of the league table which showed Liverpool above Everton. And I commented on it to say to him, it's kind of a sign of the times that a Liverpool fan would be bragging about being above Everton in the league. Does that show how far Everton have come, or sort of the slow sort of demise of Liverpool at the time?
Both, definitely both. I think it's a huge credit that to David Moyes and Everton, who people seem to forget he's done all this with no money at Everton. He's got them to become a genuine force in the top flight of, well, the top half of the table. Liverpool, I mean, what happened under Kenny Dalglish was pretty catastrophic for the team of late. Just bad signings, plummeting down the league. But I think Brendan Rodgers, given time, is starting to turn things around. So, you know, it can be more competitive between those, because, to be honest, it's been, you know, as a lifelong football fan, I would never have predicted that Everton would just be solidly ahead of Liverpool, but now it's more of a close run thing. So interestingly though, a few things in the papers today about David Moyes. Not sure he's going to sign a new contract at Everton. So, but you know, could any other manager have done what he's done on such a shoestring budget? Yeah. It's hard to say. I
think there's talk, because obviously 11 years without a trophy, although they may not be considered one of the top 4 sides, fans still want a Wembley trip. They still want, you know, and we'll talk about the FA Cup tie now. Everton 0, Wigan 3. A quite remarkable result, wasn't it?
Astonishing result. Not just astonishing in terms of the result, but how it happened. Wigan just absolutely dominated. Okay, so their 3 goals came in 3 mental minutes, but they were just in complete control. This is the thing with Wigan, is they're so unpredictable. Last week they get absolutely trounced by Liverpool, awful defending, arguments between players, no cohesion at all. Then they turn up at Everton, not remotely favourites, you know, at Goodison, and just wipe the floor with them. And it must be so frustrating for Martinez, because, you know, why can't they do this week in, week out in the league? That's your bread and butter. You know, I mean, a cup run is great, but it's not what he really wants, is it?
Okay, so one thing that's on the cards now after the draw yesterday, which again we'll discuss and we'll show you on the screen, but Wigan are now going to face either Millwall or Blackburn in the semi-final, which, you know, they would go into the game, I imagine, favourites,
yep,
no matter who they play. Could Wigan be a team that wins the FA Cup and gets relegated from the Premier League in the same season?
It's quite realistic. It's quite hard to see them beating either United, City or Chelsea in the final, but you never know on final day. And it's not unfeasible. As I was telling you before, a couple of seasons back, Birmingham City beat Arsenal in what was then the Carling Cup final, and it was, you know, delirious scenes, but then they got relegated and they've not been back in the Premier League since. So if you ask a Birmingham City fan now, would you have not taken that cup to still be in the Premier League today? They'll all say they'd rather be in the Premier League. It's where the money is, it's where the action is. So if you're talking to Roberto Martinez now, he will forget the FA Cup if it meant staying in the Premier League, and he's just got to wish that they can play like that in their remaining Premier League games. Okay,
interesting to see what happens. We just mentioned then Millwall and Blackburn. They drew 0-0. Not really much to talk about with that, quite a stale game. There'll be a replay. They'll be facing Wigan in the semi-final in a few weeks' time. The other game was Manchester City, who trounced Barnsley 5-0. You and Mike talked about Carlos Tevez last week, the fact that he'd been arrested for motoring offences.
Oh, as we saw in the news, Carless
Tevez, the British press, with a wonderful pun. Tevez didn't just feature in the game, he was the game. 3 goals, a hat-trick and 2 assists. What does that say about how good a player he is to forget everything off the field?
Well, this is what happens. He's a brilliant world-class player, and I think, you know, a lot is written about players and published, and I mean, there's no doubt this did happen, and it seemed like it was fairly stupid of Tevez, but I think it's that ability to just forget that stuff, not let it bother you, or in fact use it as an incentive on the pitch. And he came out, yes, okay, he's against Barnsley, they're a championship side, but he could have been, you know, showing that he had the weight of that on his shoulders. Instead, he just played an unbelievable game, scored 3 great goals, and showed City that, you know, whilst he might cause them a few difficult PR issues off the pitch, it's totally worth it for what you can do on the pitch.
Okay. The winner of that game, Manchester City, is going to face either Chelsea or Manchester United. A 2-2 draw yesterday. Man United 2 goals up. Not often you see them let a 2-goal lead slip, especially in a game of that importance as well. What did you make of the result?
I think there's definitely was a hangover from Tuesday night against Real Madrid. I'm not saying that's an excuse, but if you think they were obviously down to 10 men, a hell of a lot of running for the likes of Evra and Raphael, who Alex Ferguson came out and said yesterday, those 2 players in particularly are shattered. They're just so tired, and you can see particularly in the Ramirez goal, they're nowhere to be seen. You know, Chelsea, great counter-attack, and there's nothing that United players could do. I think Rafa Benitez deserves a lot of credit. He doesn't get much credit from his own fans, but, you know, at 2-0 down, he made a brave decision to take off Lampard and to bring on Hazard.
Boos from the crowd as well when Lampard was taken off.
Yeah, exactly, because, you know, it's not an easy decision to make. And yeah, brought on Hazard, who changed the game immediately with a stunning goal. And then he brought on Torres as well, which is always an interesting decision. But you can't argue that his substitutions absolutely changed the game. They changed the whole impetus of it. And in the end of the day, Chelsea should have won this match. They only have David De Gea who kept them at bay. I think United will be happy to still be in the cup, and I would still make United just about favourites going down to Stamford Bridge, because I think they'll have regrouped. They'll have had a bit more time since, because that Real Madrid game was not just tiring physically, but absolutely battering mentally.
Emotionally, yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see. It'll be a great game at Stamford Bridge. I make United just edging favourites.
Okay. The final thing we can talk about then is Benitez has come out today, and he's accused Alex Ferguson, who, you know, had a controversial week last week for everything that happened with that Champions League tie. And he said that Fergie didn't shake his hand before the game. He said he was there outside the technical area waiting to shake his hand. Fergie just went straight to his seat. They didn't shake hands after the game, which Benitez says is because he went to celebrate with his players. You know, they've had a fractious relationship since obviously Benitez was at Liverpool. That's just continuing, I suppose, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think you know, there's no harm in saying Alex Ferguson is a sore loser. That's what I mean. He didn't lose, but it must have felt a bit like a loss today. Yeah. And it's interesting because Ferguson came out and said about Benitez, he's not going to kick a man when he's down and stuff like that. So I don't really know what happened before the game. Afterwards, I imagine it's Benitez has run off to celebrate with his fans. Ferguson stormed down the tunnel because he's not happy with what's happened. Yeah. I think they should have shaken hands. I think that's always, you know, a respect between managers. But I mean, that what happened when Benitez was at Liverpool, for those of you who don't know, Benitez compiled a booklet on all the times that he thinks Ferguson has got unfair, positive treatment from referees. I think he lost it a bit, personally.
He was sat there with his little list and he was like, fact number 1, fact number 2, fact number 3, fact number 4.
And, you know, I mean, Benitez could arguably say that Ferguson's mind games was one of the reasons why he ended up losing his job at Liverpool. He sort of had a bit of a meltdown there. So what can you say? I don't know why it's happened. I think the managers should always shake hands. It's the least they can do. I'm not saying they have to be friends, but yeah, they should shake hands.
Respect, isn't it?
It's a matter of respect.
Well, that's all for today. We've gone through a lot. Mike will be back on Friday, we hope.
Yeah,
unless he's
studies permitting.
Studies permitting. Like we say, education is key. We'll always emphasise that here at ATV.
And you'll be back in this seat for Afro Vibes coming out on Wednesday.
Wednesday night, so tune in for that. And enjoy the rest of your weeks.
Take care, guys.